Welcome to the Arkansas Cattle Business Podcast, brought to you by the Arkansas Cattlemen's Association. Here, we dive into the heart of Arkansas's cattle industry, where legislation, education, advocacy, and development come together to support the hardworking cattle producers of the natural state. Whether you're in the pasture or on the road, this is your connection to the people, policies, and programs shaping the future of our industry. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Arkansas Cattle Business Podcast. What is the last podcast of 2025? We've been doing this a full year almost, pretty much.
Yeah,
January will be a full year because we kicked it off then, and so that's crazy to me.
it is great. I didn't even think about that until you started talking about it. I was like, oh wow.
Yeah, so this wraps up our inaugural year of podcasting. So thanks for joining us, and thanks for sticking around as we figure out what we're doing and how frequently we're doing this, and have conversations hopefully that are beneficial to our members. So I'm excited about it. But I'm your host, Michelle Buffkin Horton.
And I'm your co-host, Norley Townsend.
And we are excited to be here with you for the very last podcast of 2025. And so you'll see, you may hear, obviously, depending on how you listen. Going forward, there'll be a fewer podcasts as we enter 2026. So if you have been following along on YouTube or in a video form, you may have noticed that I am actually currently expecting the recording of this podcast. I'm due in like 12 days. And so I will not be here for some of them in 2026. And so to lighten the load on Norley a little bit, we're going to decrease from twice a month to once a month for at least my maternity leave and until the legislative or the fiscal session starts for legislature. And then we'll kind of revisit in March, April, and see where we stand and what's going on. But you may see a fewer podcasts. Or if you just have something that you really want to talk about, like, let us know. We can change it, obviously, but trying to make it a little bit easier for staff as there's only 3 of us here. And so if I'm not here, it's kind of a lot. And so trying to make it a little bit easier, a little bit even on responsibilities as we go forward. So
we're about to move and all the things, so what's going on?
There's a ton.
And we're like, we probably need to cut back on the podcast a little bit, so.
Yeah, which is exciting. And so they're not hard to record. It just takes a good bit of time for Norley to edit and put everything together. And so we'll see. We'll go once a month to start off the 2026 year and then see where we go from there.
Yep.
But we appreciate y'all tuning in. We appreciate y'all being here with us. We've got hopefully an exciting recap of 2025. I know it's been quite the year, and so we are excited to be able to talk about what all the Cattlemen's has done and what we've been working on and what we're looking forward to next year.
Yeah, it was a full year. Looking forward to a fuller year.
Yeah, it never slows down, never ends. But let's do it. I'm gonna have my water bottle. Sorry, you're gonna hear it.
The emotional support water bottle.
Always.
So, do we want to go ahead and start?
Let's jump in.
All right. So, when you look back on 2025, what stands out as the most defining moment for Arkansas Cattlemen's?
Oof.
It's a hard one.
It's a hard one because there is a lot of things that stand out. You're going to hear about quite a few of them as we go through today's podcast. I think, obviously, as you know, we break the Cattlemen's up into 4 pillars. So legislation, education, advocacy, and development. And I think there's probably at least one thing in each pillar that stands out for us this year. I think one of the biggest things that stands out was our membership retention rate. So we had our first dues increase. It was voted on in 2024, but it took effect in 2025 membership year. And so it's the first dues increase for active members in 15 years. And it effectively doubled the dues. Not effectively, it did. And so it doubled the dues. And so we still were able to finish the year with an 86% membership retention rate. And so that's a huge win, a huge testament to our counties and to the work that they did going out and recruiting members and still talking about what the benefits are that Cattlemen's provides even at that higher rate. So that was a very big win. And then we had a ton of what feels like a ton of legislative wins across the board with LFP payments, with with some private property discussions, with lots of pieces that we'll talk about here later on. And so I think there's probably two pieces, both sides of the board there for big wins is going to be the membership retention, still having that support throughout the state that allowed us to have the legislative wins that we did.
Yeah. So how did this year reinforce the value of staying engaged at both the state and national levels?
Yeah, what a year. It feels crazy to think about the fact that we went from having conversations about the Buffalo River watershed to now we're having conversations about the Illinois River watershed in Northwest Arkansas. Very similar conversations that we had, and very much what we talked about in the Buffalo was it's a slippery slope between telling us you can't raise hogs in the Buffalo River to telling you can't raise cattle in any other watershed in the state of Arkansas. And now we're having that exact same conversation about the Illinois River watershed, but for poultry. And so I'm like, oh, cool. Like 6 months later, we're having this same thing. And so that's a big piece of the state level, and having those conversations and being engaged, because while our legislature agrees a lot of times with agriculture, it is very telling. It is very impactful for them to hear from individual producers, to hear from the people that are going to be affected by these things. Same at the national level. You saw some really big wins with the One Big Beautiful Bill, and then come 6 months, 8 months later, saw the longest government shutdown we've ever had, along with the fact that President Trump tweeted that cattle producers did not understand the cattle industry, and that we were going to import beef from Argentina, that we were going to do all of these things to affect the prices of beef in the grocery store. And so, again, that was the time when a lot of producers were like, hey hold on, like let's talk about this. And so being able to share their opinion, their thoughts, really did actually make tangible differences. And so I think this year alone, like, you've seen countless examples of being engaged matters, being involved matters, because people may say one thing, but then they are willing to have a conversation, willing to change their mind, or willing to listen to your perspective. And so we've seen that time and time again this year, for sure. It's been an interesting year. Mm-hmm. So on that front.
And so we'll talk about a little bit about membership. I know you already mentioned it. So we closed the year out with the 86% retention rate. What do you think drove that success?
Oh, 100% it was our members. It was our county volunteers, our county leaders. And so while there are 3 of us here in the office on staff, the majority of the work on the membership drive is done by our county recruiters. They're the ones out hitting the pavement, going to their neighbors, going to the feed store, going to the sale barn, wherever they may be, having conversations of saying, hey, here's why you should be a member. And I know there was a lot of trepidation. There was a lot of question marks of, well, how are we going to sell this? Like, we didn't, quote unquote, add value to the membership. We just increased the cost. And so I think a lot of it was us being able to have a conversation with those counties and answer questions, but also share the work that we've been doing at the Capitol, at the legislature, and share the policy side of it and the benefits that they're seeing to help those counties, county officers and county recruiters sell the message and communicate that message better. Because I think that's a big piece of it, is they're the ones doing it, but they need to know what value we're providing. And so we've been able to work with them to really help better communicate our policy message and our legislative focus. And so I think that's a big piece of the success, is just those people that were out there willing to put in the effort, put in the phone calls, the text messages, whatever it may be. Really grateful for them. We saw, 17 top hands this year? Mm-hmm. And so 17 people out there recruited, either 30 renewed members or 15 new. And so even in a quote-unquote hard year to recruit members. And so very excited, very grateful for them. Literally could not do it without our counties, for sure.
Literally. And so how have updated membership programs and recruiter incentives changed engagement?
Yeah, so a big piece of that is going to be, like I mentioned earlier, it's just having those conversations of the value of the cattlemen's and the benefit that we're providing. And so I think in the past, a lot of people viewed the Cattlemen's Association as their local county cattlemen's. And they would say, hey, I'm a member of Columbia County. And you're like, okay, great. What does that get you? And it was, oh, okay, well, that gets me a free meal once a month, every other month, however often that county meets at their county meeting. It gets them some educational pieces at it. It gets you a magazine every month. It gets you a free steak dinner in March for the area conferences. It gets you all these things. And that was kind of where it ended. People didn't see the bigger picture. And so what we've been working on for years now is the bigger picture of what the state does. And so it's not that we've necessarily updated or upgraded a lot of things. It's just updating our messaging and saying, hey, while you still get those things at the county level, that's great, that's important. Really what you're getting is legislative representation at the Capitol here in Little Rock and in DC. You're getting the opportunity for the next generation to be trained through ACLC and ACGC. You're getting a recruiter reward. Say, hey, if you recruit even one person, like, here you go. Like, yes, you're getting those items, but we're also changing the messaging behind the cattlemen's. And I think that's what's been effective as we've gone forward, is people are seeing the cattlemen's in a little bit of a different light and seeing that, hey, we've been doing this the whole time. We just haven't done the best job of telling our story doing it. And so now we're sharing our story a little bit better of what we're working on and how we are benefiting the producers for sure.
And that's one of the reasons we created this podcast, to get our message out to y'all. So
for sure.
Yeah. And so we'll talk a little bit more about policy. So Senate Bill 290, which is Act 921, was a major win for us this year. Why was that bill so important to cattle producers?
Oh, yeah. So that's, if you don't remember, if you weren't with us for the whirlwind that was SB 290, and also the legislative session this year in Arkansas. It is the hog fight bill, the buffalo bill, whatever you want to call it. But for us, it was a private property rights issue. And so it was the bill that specified that unelected state agencies should not have the authority to come in and create a permitting moratorium in the Buffalo River watershed. That power should lie with the legislature. And so what this bill did is exactly that. It put the power in the hands of the legislature. And so instead of having an unelected agency be able to do that, it's going to be people that are held accountable to their constituents. And so it was, it changed what feels like 17 different times as we went through it. But the biggest win is the fact that it protects producers down the road. It leaves the moratoriums that are in place. There's 3 different moratoriums across the state in watersheds. So it leaves those 3, but it protects producers from future permitting moratoriums. And so that's a big win because, again, that was only it was the very end of session. So it would have been April that bill got passed. And it is now the beginning of December. It's the end of December by the time this airs, but in the beginning of December, we started having a very similar conversation about the Illinois River watershed and the poultry growers there in Tyson stating they're not going to renew contracts and they're not going to be able to they'll finish out the contracts that they have, but they'll not be able to renew their contracts with poultry growers within the Illinois River watershed because of the litigation that is occurring in Oklahoma. And so, 6 months, 8 months later, we're already having a very similar feeling conversation about a different protein, about a different item within the agriculture food supply chain. But it feels one step closer to cattle because a lot of our producers in Northwest Arkansas that raise cattle, a lot of our members also have poultry houses. And so that moratorium, that permitting moratorium, while it doesn't necessarily directly affect this Illinois River watershed conversation, it at least, we had the conversations we were able to share with our legislators and the legislators, and they understand and see where we're coming from of the fact that this is our land. We should be able to raise what we want here. We should be able to do what we want on our private property. And we still see that ringing true as they're having these conversations about the Illinois River watershed. Quite a few of them are like, oh, well, it's not your call. Sorry. This is the landowner's right. And so that was a really big win. Really excited about it. It did take quite a lot of time, took quite a lot of effort, and a lot of our members were able to come in and testify on behalf of it. And so that was a great opportunity for them to connect directly with their elected officials. But also we had members all across the state reach out and say, hey, like, I don't live in the Buffalo River watershed, but I live in a watershed, and this is why it matters to me. And so it was a great way to engage with our elected officials and for our members to reach out and have those conversations. And so all in all, quite a very big win, because I've been told I've only lived in Arkansas now for, 8 years at this point. But I've been told the way the Buffalo goes, so goes the rest of the state. And that's proven true already. Within 8 months, we're already here having a very similar conversation about a different watershed.
Yep.
So, yep.
And so the one big, beautiful bill included a long-fought improvements to the livestock forage program. Why was that such a priority for us?
Yeah, so the one big, beautiful bill got passed this summer, which feels like a lifetime ago. But one of the changes in it was the change to the LFP, the Livestock Forage Program payment thresholds. And so in the past, you had to be in a D2 drought for 8 consecutive weeks in a row to be eligible for payments. And there we did the stats, we did the math of how many producers, how many counties in the state of Arkansas hit that 6-week, 7-week mark of D2 drought, but never hit that 8-week mark. Their neighbor got a little bit of rain, or they got just enough rain to ruin the drought. If you're watching online, so you'll see air quotes at that point. But not enough rain to actually make a difference for their crops, or to make a difference for their forages, or for their hay, and for their cattle. And so we were able to decrease those thresholds. And so that was a very big win. Something we've been working on and fighting for what feels like forever at the Cattlemen's, prior to me being here. But I know that ever since I even started as communications, membership and communications director, I was putting together data and statistics on drought payments and LFP payments and sharing that as we went through the 2022 drought. And so it was a very big win, because while we might not be able to, we did not quite fix the drought monitor, which we all know is not the most effective measurement tool for drought in the state of Arkansas, but we were able to at least make it a little bit easier for payments to be accessible for producers. And so we are still waiting on an official implementation date for that, but the grazing period just ended for this year's LFP, and so we'll hopefully see for next year for LFP for that to be picked up in that decreased threshold to be available for producers and get some payments to them when their forages are affected. Because you and I know that there's not much difference between a 7-week drought and an 8-week drought. Mm-hmm. Your grass is ruined either way. That 1 week isn't what makes the difference. It's prior to that. So that was a very big win. Really grateful for Senator Bozeman for his fight on that. I know we've been he and I, his office and I have been in conversations about that for literal years, and so we're very excited. We were excited to see that come through.
Yeah, and you've kind of hit on it, but what do the LFP changes mean for producers facing drought moving forward?
Yep, and so that's the biggest one, is that it's going to make it a little bit easier, the money a little bit more accessible for producers. And so ideally the goal is still to update the drought monitor and to make it more accurate, and or to get a state climatologist here in the state of Arkansas to share real-time, on-the-ground information about what is occurring in the state. Because a lot of times the drought monitor says, oh, you're in a D1 drought, and you look out in your pastures and you're like, I don't have grass, my ponds are empty. Like, this is not a D1 drought. This is not, quote-unquote, abnormally dry. Like, this is moderately dry. And so there's a lot of confusion there. And so while we're still trying to improve that, this will at least be a bridge to be able to help producers in the meantime.
And how does this win demonstrate the importance of sustained advocacy over time?
Yeah, a lot of times in Little Rock, it feels like wins are quick and easy, or losses are quick and easy either way, because things move very quickly in state legislature. A bill can get introduced and be in the committee discussion the next day or 2 days later and be done, signed and done in a week or less. And so you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, that's how this works. In DC, that is very rarely the case. We've been fighting for LFP updates. We've been fighting for estate tax. We've been for estate tax for the last 25 years at least. And so having those conversations, while we know our elected officials understand, they know they've had that conversation with us countless times. Every time we go to D.C., we're going to talk about the estate tax. We're going to talk about blackhead vultures. We're going to talk about drought. But what it does is it reminds them that, hey, this is still an issue for producers. And while it may feel like an issue that has been here for a long time for them, this is an everyday occurrence. And this is a struggle of an everyday problem for our producers. And so those conversations happening over time really do make a difference, obviously, as we've been able to see with the estate tax reform that was in the One Big Beautiful Bill, and the LFP update payments. And so, like, those conversations are beneficial, even though it feels like, especially in DC, it takes a lot longer for progress to be made, for movement to be made. But it just keeps our issues and our struggles top of mind for our elected officials. So, yeah, for sure.
And so going into national issues, what issues did ACA prioritize during meetings with Arkansas congressional delegation when y'all went to D.C.?
Yeah, so like I said, we always talk about black-headed buzzards. Never been to a county meeting in the state of Arkansas where we haven't somehow talked about black-headed buzzards. And so that's always going to be a conversation. And so sharing the struggles that our producers are facing with that. Saw some benefits there this year post-meeting in D.C. with our federal delegation on getting depredation payments for black-headed buzzards, for calves that were killed due to black-headed buzzards. So we're going to have conversations there. Conversations about the estate tax. It was set to the inheritance tax, the death tax, whatever you want to call it. It was set to sunset and go away. And so the benefit of decreasing the estate tax was set to sunset, and so it was going to drop down to like $5 million, where if your family inherited $5 million worth of your property, they were going to have to pay the estate tax, the inheritance tax to get that. We were able to get that up to $15 million, $30 million, individual and couple respectively. And so that was with no sunset, no end date, and so it was a very big win as well. We also went up there right at the conversation of the New World screwworm was happening, and so had a lot of education around the New World screwworm and a lot of conversations about the issues that we were facing, because again, we've talked about it before, like, we're not necessarily a quote-unquote border state, but pretty daggum close. Like, we are very much concerned about New World screwworm coming into the United States, and so sharing about that and the LFP payments. And so it feels like this is not the case every year, but it feels like every single thing we talked about, like, we made positive progress on this year at the national level, which is nearly unheard of, and by no means was it us specifically individually as the cattlemen's. It's years and years of those sustained conversations, and it's other state cattlemen's across the nation. It's other organizations across the nation that are having a lot of the same problems and having a lot of the same conversations that are making that progress. And so really big wins for us for this year. And so very grateful to see those and excited to see hopefully some momentum going into 2026 as we continue some conversations on the federal level.
Yeah. So how do uncertainty and federal shutdowns reinforce the need for a unified voice?
Yeah, so we had the longest government shutdown in history this year. And so it was very interesting. It was right at the time where a lot of our disaster payment programs were, the application period was open. And so a lot of our producers would have been utilizing their local FSA offices for disaster payment assistant applications, for FSA loans, for whatever it may be. And so we saw, because the last government shutdown that would have been the second longest at this point would have been kind of over Christmas holidays. Like, it was obviously had a very large impact on the people that were affected, but the producers didn't necessarily see the effects because they weren't in the middle of harvest. They weren't in the middle of application processes and loan processes per se. They weren't going into the FSA offices over Christmas break. This one was in the fall, and so we saw it very quickly, the impact And so having those conversations, reminding producers like what their local USDA offices, FSA offices, NRCS, all the pieces of those do, and being able to say, hi, like, this is why we need them. You saw FSA offices opening up before any USDA offices opening up before any other piece of the government. And so obviously agriculture played a very important role in that. And so now is the time. It feels like now is the time to have the conversations and to share your opinion, share your thoughts, because the powers that be in DC are listening. They're willing to have that conversation, or they're willing to say, hey, like, maybe we need to open up these offices and do something. And so we're seeing the impacts there for sure.
Yeah. So switching gears here, we're talking about area conferences. Reached more than 2,500 producers this year, and what are producers most hungry for right now?
Yeah, so area conferences this year were fun. We set records with attendance at some of our area conferences, and so really excited about that. So if you don't know, they're a free steak dinner, so that's obviously a draw, but there's also an educational portion. And this year we did a producer panel instead of having a company come in and talk and sponsor the program. We did a producer panel and had them share kind of what works for them, what they're seeing and what they're benefiting from, but also like, hi, this one doesn't work for me, like, don't do this. And so lessons learned as well. And so I think that was a big piece of why a lot of people came, was because they wanted to hear from their peers. They wanted to hear from people like them, people they could see themselves in and see a realistic benefit from, along with a tangible takeaway of like, oh, hey, like, I could actually do that. Like, this isn't go out and spend X number of dollars on this product and then you can make money down the road. It's, no, here's what we did, here's what worked. And so I think that's one of the reasons they were so effective. I think what people are hungry for right now is things like that. They're hungry for practical advice. While markets have been wonderful this year, you've had a lot of fluctuation with them, but overall, prices have been up. They're anticipating prices are going to stay up for the next 2 to 4 years. And so we're really grateful for that. But we're still seeing producers that are wary of just throwing money away to throw money away, or spending money just to spend money. They want to see the benefits. They want to see, hey, I tried it, I took a risk, this worked. Or, hi, I tried it, I took a risk, like, don't do this. Because they want to spend that money wisely. Cattle producers are used to not having a ton of just disposable income sitting around, and so they have to make the best of what they have. And so even though they may have a little bit more money this year than in previous years, they still want to make the best of what they have. They still want to use it in a responsible way, and so they want to hear what's beneficial and what's working. And so I think that's what we're going to see going forward into 2026 with our area conferences, is we're going to actually hear from another producer who's going to come in and share, hey, here's what's worked for us, here's what we've done, and here's what's been very effective. And so I think that's going to hopefully be what our producers are continuing to want to hear so far. That's what we've heard from them. That's what they've said.
Yeah, and our other big event is convention. So why is it important to keep evolving convention programming like the Quiz Bowl Finals?
Yeah, so this year we brought back the Quiz Bowl Finals. It was a tradition we used to do back in the 90s, I would guess, if I had to guess. And so we were able to bring that back. Again, I think we brought in Cattlemen's College's programs that were focused on tangible takeaways. It wasn't just a sales pitch. It wasn't just somebody saying, hi, here's my product, here's why you should buy it. It was people saying, this is what works for us. And so we saw that. But then on the Quiz Bowl Finals, I think it's a great way to involve the youth. You can look around our industry and see that while there are young people involved, most of the people that you see at county cattlemen's meetings, most of the people you see at convention are upwards of the quote-unquote young side. And so seeing literal youth, 4-H kids, FFA kids come in and compete in Quiz Bowl Finals was exciting for them, because it was, okay, like, there's hope for the future. There's excitement for the future. But also I think it kind of opened their eyes of like, oh my gosh, like, these kids, they know their stuff. Like, there were times that they would ask a question and a lot of the producers were like, I didn't know that one. these kids did. Then, like, these youth knew the answers. They knew they'd studied, they'd been involved. And so not only was it exciting to see the hope and the excitement for the future, but it was the fact that they were actively taking the time to be involved, to study, to learn, and to do all of these things. And so you're going to see more of those types of items coming up in 2026. So we're really excited to see a new cattle working demo, a new cattle working contest that Cattlemen's is going to be the sponsor of. And so you're going to see, again, another opportunity for youth to learn how to be involved in the industry, to actually be involved in the industry, to do the work, and to take the pieces of what we've been able to learn throughout the years and apply it to those youth. So that's going to be a big thing, because you can see our age. The average age of a cattle producer in the state of Arkansas is like 56 and a half years old. And so while we say we need to involve young people, like, this literally involves young people. And so it's putting our money where our mouth is, or walking the walk and talking the talk, both sides of it. Either way, like, it's truly beneficial to both generations, we're hoping, and excited to see where those relationships go in the future.
And so we graduated both ACLC class and a second ACGC class this year. Why is leadership development such a long-term priority? Kind of just what we hit on.
Yeah. And so while we were just talking about youth, ACLC and ACGC are one step beyond that. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily, they're not youth, they're not kids, but they are young and beginning producers, or producers that have not been involved in the cattlemen's or in the industry for very long. And so we graduated 18 people out of our ACLC class just last week at the board meeting. And so we're very excited about that. All across the state, producers that are anywhere from 20 head of seed stock producers to 600 head of commercial cattle to allied industry, like, whatever you can imagine, they were represented there within that class. And so I think it's important for them, because they get to see that networking. They get to see themselves and other people. They get to say, okay, well, like, you may have a different breed of cattle than I do, but here's where we can still learn from each other. Here's where we can benefit from each other, along with learning about the ACA and what we're doing. And then ACGC is the 2.0 of that program. And so it's the second iteration of it. And so this is the second year we've done. Graduated 2 ACGC graduates, both out of Central Arkansas. So we had Conway County with Travis Payne and White County with Maybelle Castera. And so very excited for both of those graduates who finished at convention this year. And that one goes a lot deeper. They come to the executive committee meetings. They go with us to national events. They go with us to DC. They go with us to policy development process meetings. And so they get a lot more involved on the ACA side, along with helping with the ACLC program and getting to know those participants, and still seeing different aspects of the industry that maybe they didn't see in their ACLC class. So for us, I think it's, again, a way to plug in, a way to get more people involved. There's only so many positions on the executive committee. There's only so many positions in your county leadership. There's only so many things, and so this gives them one more way to get plugged in, but it also teaches them the importance of being plugged in. Because a lot of times, those county leaders have been county leaders for quite a while. They would love to take a step back and have someone else take the reins, but people don't feel quite comfortable doing that. And so both of these programs are designed to help that next generation of leaders take over at the county level and grow the association, but also to benefit themselves and grow and better their operations.
So hitting on that, how does these programs strengthen ACA's future leadership pipeline?
Yeah, that's it. That's how it does it. And so while they go through this program, they learn about the cattlemen's, they learn about our policy process, they learn about what we're doing. And so it gives them a more in-depth look into what we are working on and what we're providing. But then we also find a way to plug them into the county after that. And so post-graduation, we send out an email and invite them, or let them know, like, hi, like, in case you haven't met your county president yet, which most of them have. Most of them have been going to their meetings, because we do the same thing in the beginning. We say, hey, this is Nora Lee. She's in White County. Like, she's involved in ACLC, like, you need to reach out to her, invite her to your county meetings, like, have these things going throughout the year. But at the end, we also send a follow-up email and say, hi, like, they've completed the program. We want to make sure you introduce each other and meet each other. And so it does actually give them the next step of, like, hi, here's how to get involved. Here's where you're going, along with coming to our board meetings and seeing how board meetings are functioned and ran as well.
Yeah. So what are our top priorities heading into 2026?
Yeah, so we're in a fiscal session for Arkansas, so we're going to be looking at budgets for the University of Arkansas Division of Agriculture. We're going to be looking at budgets for the Department of Agriculture. I was just in a meeting this week with the chief of staff for the governor, who specified that their goal is to cut budgets, as it usually is, and so our goal is going to be making sure that we're able to still function and provide benefits to producers through those two programs that those two agencies or entities that we work with, and making sure that they have the ability to continue functioning to the best of their ability. And so we'll be looking at that. We'll be continuing a lot of our national priorities that we've always been working on and sharing those thoughts. And then Norley mentioned it at the beginning, like, some really big things happening here at the Cattlemen's. We'll be moving offices. So our state board has voted to move our home headquarters from where we are to downtown Little Rock. So that'll be happening in the beginning of the year, along with we are getting a brand new membership database. And so we're really excited about that. If you like technology, perfect. You're going to be able to log in, do a lot more items that you've never been able to do for the Cattlemen's Association or with the Cattlemen's Association. If you don't like technology, it will stay exactly the same for you. You will mail your check into the Cattlemen's. We'll put it in. Not a problem at all. But hopefully providing some more resources to our members and to our counties through that database. And so lots of really big things happening there as well. Along with, I think our next step is looking at those youth programs. You're going to see a lot of new youth programming happening at the Cattlemen's, and in conjunction with 4-H FFA. Things we've got ABLE, we've got the cattle working contest, we've got all kinds of different events happening to focus on that next generation. And so I think you're going to see those coming forward pretty heavy in 2026.
Yeah, very exciting stuff going on.
Yep, for sure.
And so how can members stay involved and help move the association forward?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is obviously, like, once you get your renewal notice in the mail, is go ahead and pay your dues and get involved at your county level. A lot of counties, obviously, like, they're just now meeting for Christmas, or they're wrapping up for Christmas. They'll meet in January, February. Attend your county meeting. If you're not sure when they meet, you can go on our website and you can look and find out when they meet, or you can call the office and find out when they meet. And if we have a date, if they're one that meets every third Thursday at 6 p.m., like, we will let you know. And if we don't know, we will call and find out when they're meeting and share that with you, because that's the start, is getting involved at the county level and sharing, learning what they're doing there. So paying your dues, checking out the magazine, obviously listening to the podcast, staying up to date with us, but having those conversations and talking to people about why they should be a member, what you've learned, what you've benefited from the Cattlemen's, and sharing that with others, whether you're a quote-unquote membership chair or not. It doesn't matter. Like, anyone can recruit a member, and so that's going to be the best way to help the association move forward, because those numbers matter. Membership matters at the Capitol for sure. And so it's one of the reasons we've been able to get some really big wins is relationships, but also membership numbers there. And so pay your dues, encourage other people to pay their dues. If you have questions, reach out to your county cattlemen's, reach out to the state association here at the office. We'll help you however we can.
Yep.
So, yep. What a year.
What a year.
I did the math. I was looking earlier. We've got goals written on my wall, it's a whiteboard wall. And I looked. I was like, okay, so we met 10 out of our 12 goals this year. Norley and I set some pretty audacious goals for some of these for the year, and we've been able to meet them, and that's because of our membership. That's because of you that are involved at the county level, you that pay your membership, whether you go to a county meeting or not. Obviously, we hope you do, but even just the membership helps. And so we are really grateful for your support throughout the last year. It's been a year of exponential growth, I feel like. While our membership numbers didn't necessarily grow, I feel like everything else did. And I think next year we're going to see even more focus on leadership development and county development. And so we're really excited to see where that takes us in 2026. So we truly appreciate it. We appreciate your support this year. If we can do anything for you, let us know.
Call us. Let us know.
Yep. Thank you all so much for tuning in. That's our 2025 year-end recap. If you want to read more, learn more, you can read. We'll have a blog on our website we can link in here as well. That'll wrap up our year with a lot of the big legislative wins, pieces like that. And so that way you can kind of look back and see what all we got done this year. It was a lot.
We did a lot.
It was very good. But we appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you next year.
Yep. See y'all later. This is the Arkansas Cattle Business Podcast, your trusted source for all things cattle in the natural state.